Ever wondered how a football field became its own country, or why Russia's Oblast region is a labyrinth of borders? Buckle up as we blast through mind-blowing geography oddities, from Dutch enclaves trapped in a maze of tiny territories to French Guiana's wild South American extremes. These hidden gems will leave you questioning every map you've ever seen.
Did you know Easter Island is 2,000 miles closer to Peru than to Chile? Easter Island lies over 2,000 miles from Chile's mainland, but only 1,700 miles from the coast of Peru. Despite being part of Chile, it is farther from Santiago than from Lima, the capital of Peru. It takes about 10 hours by plane to reach Chile, not a short trip at all. You can fly from Easter Island to Lima in less time than it takes to fly to Santiago. That's how far out it really is. That's bigger than the distance from New York to Los Angeles, and it's all because of where Easter Island sits in the Pacific. So next time you look at a map, remember, geography doesn't always make sense. What's the weirdest geography fact in your country? What if I told you there's a piece of Germany smaller than a football field inside Belgium? This tiny sliver of German territory is called Lustrich, and it's just over 1,000 square meters, about the size of a small house. Located in the Eifel region, Lustrich is completely surrounded by Belgian territory, yet it's still governed by Germany. This strange situation dates back to the 1920s, after World War I, when border adjustments left Lustrich as a tiny German enclave deep in Belgium. Despite its size, Lustrich has its own postal code and is fully under German jurisdiction, a true microstate within a country. And it's not alone. Germany has several such exclaves scattered across Europe, each with its own strange story. What's the tiniest piece of your country that's stuck inside another? Comment below, I'd love to hear it. What if a Russian region was completely surrounded by two other nations? That's exactly what happened to Kaliningrad Oblast. Kaliningrad is Russia's only exclave in Europe, meaning it's not connected to the rest of the country. It's about 600 miles away from mainland Russia, roughly the distance from New York to Boston. The region is about 5,800 square miles, smaller than Connecticut. Despite being surrounded by NATO members, Kaliningrad hosts some of Russia's most advanced military bases and nuclear-capable missiles. It's a strategic island in a sea of alliances, and it's never been more important. What's the most bizarre geography fact in your country? Comment below. Did you know a single town consists of 22 Belgian enclaves surrounded by Dutch territory? Welcome to Baalhertog in Belgium, home to 22 Belgian enclaves, completely surrounded by Dutch land. The border between Belgium and the Netherlands here is so complex, you can cross from one country to the other in just a few steps. This strange layout dates back to the 12th century, when the area was divided between feudal lords from both countries. Some Dutch enclaves are so small, just a single house or a small courtyard, yet they're still part of the Netherlands. And the border is so complex that drivers may need to switch license plates depending on the country they are in. And the best part? You can walk through all 22 enclaves in a short amount of time, crossing borders more than most people do in a lifetime. Did you know your country has a geography fact just as wild? Comment it below. What if I told you a massive lake once bigger than the state of Florida now fits in a bathtub? Lake Chad used to cover about 11,000 square miles in the 1960s, now it's less than 2,000 square miles. That's a drop of over 80%, and it's disappearing so fast that some villages have completely vanished. Lake Chad sits at the crossroads of four countries: Chad, Nigeria, Cameroon, and Niger. The lake is so critical that its disappearance is causing conflicts over water and land in the region. If you drove around the original Lake Chad, it would have taken you hundreds of miles. Now it's just a fraction of that. And scientists still can't explain why it's vanishing so fast, but one thing is clear, it's a crisis in the making. What if a country stretched from the Arctic to the tropics, but was only 20 miles wide? Chile is about 2,600 miles long, from the driest desert on Earth to the frozen tip of South America. It's one of the longest countries in the world, and one of the narrowest, with parts as narrow as 9.5 miles. Chile crosses through 12 different climate zones, all within one nation. You can travel from the Atacama Desert, the driest place on Earth, to the icy fjords of Patagonia, all in the same country. If you drove the whole length, it would take over 20 hours, and you'd pass through more climates than any other country. What's the most extreme geography in your country? Comment below, and don't forget to like. France's longest border isn't with Spain or Germany. It's with Brazil in the Amazon. French Guiana, an overseas territory of France, shares a border with Brazil that stretches approximately 226 miles. That makes it France's longest international border, even though it's over 5,000 miles from Paris. This bizarre geography is the result of colonial history. France and Portugal carved up the region centuries ago. And here's the kicker, you can drive from the Atlantic Ocean to the border with Brazil, and still be in France the whole time. That's approximately 226 miles of French territory, and you'll be paying French taxes the whole way. Did you know your country has a geography fact just as wild? Comment it below. Did you know a town in Belgium has 22 Dutch enclaves inside it? Welcome to Bâle-Nassau, a Belgian town that contains 32 Dutch enclaves, like a puzzle inside a puzzle. The smallest of these enclaves is just under 30 meters wide. It takes about 50 steps to cross it. These enclaves formed centuries ago from a complex web of land swaps, treaties, and inheritance laws. Some enclaves are split by a single wall, one side in Belgium, the other in the Netherlands. And the best part? You can walk from Belgium to the Netherlands within the same area, crossing multiple borders. What other impossible geography facts does your country hide? Did you know Finland and Russia share the world's longest straight border, over 1,340 kilometers of untouched wilderness? This straight line stretches across remote wilderness, crossing no major cities or roads, just forests, lakes, and tundra. It was drawn in the early 19th century, with precise demarcation efforts beginning in the 1820s. The border is so straight, it can be seen in satellite imagery, and it hasn't changed in over 200 years. If you drove the entire length, it would take over 20 hours, with few major roads or cities along the way. This border is longer than the distance from New York to Miami, and it's still perfectly straight today. What's the most bizarre geography fact about your country? Comment below. Did you know you can walk from Spain to France and back to Spain, all within the same town square? Welcome to Bonias de Cerrato in Galicia, Spain, home to the world's tiniest double enclave. The outer village is in Spain, the middle is in France, and the inner is back in Spain, all within a space less than 150 feet wide. This bizarre setup dates back to the 12th century, when a local nobleman built a wall to claim a tax-free zone, but accidentally created a border within a border. And here's the kicker, the entire enclave is so small, you can walk from Spain to France and back in under 2 minutes. It's like a tiny, real-life version of a donut-shaped country, except this one loops through 2 nations. What's the weirdest geography fact in your country? Let us know in the comments. What if you were in Germany, but you couldn't leave without passing through France? That's exactly what happens in Hahnbach. Hahnbach covers an area of 67.41 square kilometers, smaller than a city block, and it's completely surrounded by French territory in the Alsace region. Despite being surrounded by France for over a century, Hahnbach remains under German control, a tiny island of Germany in a sea of France. Here's the kicker, you can drive through Hahnbach entirely within Germany. It is not an enclave and is not surrounded by another country, a tiny sliver of Germany that defies all logic and geography. And if you walk the entire perimeter, it would take you less than 10 minutes, but you'd be crossing international borders the whole time. So, what's the weirdest border in your country? Comment below, we're dying to hear it. What if a country's entire border was just 3.5 miles long and had no bridges? Welcome to San Marino, one of the world's smallest countries, completely enclosed by Italy. Its border with Italy is about 24 miles long, and there are few bridges connecting it to the rest of the country. You could walk from one end of San Marino to the other in under 10 minutes, and you wouldn't cross a single bridge. Despite being landlocked, San Marino has fewer border checkpoints than most countries, but none of them are bridges. That's right, San Marino's entire border is shorter than the length of the Golden Gate Bridge. So, what's the weirdest geography fact about your country? Did you know Spain is one of the few countries in the world that spans 3 time zones and 3 hemispheres? From the mainland in Europe to the Canary Islands in the Atlantic and the North African enclaves of Ceuta and Melilla, Spain stretches across 3 hemispheres: northern, western, and southern. Spain officially uses 3 time zones: Central European Time, Western European Time, and Africa's Western European Time, all within one country. The country's territory includes mainland Spain, the Canary Islands, and 2 small enclaves in North Africa, Ceuta and Melilla, which are located north of the equator. Because of this unique layout, you can stand in Spain and be in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere, but not in the same location, all within the same country. And here's the kicker: the Canary Islands are approximately 624 nautical miles west of the mainland, making Spain one of the most geographically diverse countries on Earth. Spain is the only country in the world that spans 3 hemispheres, and it's all in one place. What's the most surprising geography fact about your country? Did you know one country is so landlocked it takes 3 borders to reach the sea? That country is Kazakhstan, a triple landlocked nation, but it is not the only one. To reach the sea, you'd first cross into Kyrgyzstan or Uzbekistan, then into China or Russia, and finally reach the Caspian Sea. The journey from the nearest coastline is about 20 miles, through Kyrgyzstan to the Caspian Sea. But here's the twist: despite being landlocked, Kazakhstan has more land than most coastal nations. It's the largest landlocked country in the world, but it is not bigger than Texas, France, and Spain combined. What's the weirdest geography fact about your country? Comment below. Did you know Bhutan has a piece of land completely surrounded by India, twice? One of these enclaves is the Chumbi Valley, a valley in the Himalayas that projects southwards from the Tibetan Plateau, intervening between Sikkim and Bhutan. This makes Bhutan the only country in the region with a true landlocked island, a sliver of its own land completely isolated by another country. The Chumbi Valley is so small that it is a narrow corridor between Bhutan and Sikkim, yet it remains under Bhutanese control. And here's the kicker: Bhutan shares its borders with India and China, making this tiny enclave even more unique. If you drove through the narrowest part of the Chumbi Valley, it is a narrow corridor between Bhutan and Sikkim. So, what's the weirdest geography fact about your country? What if I told you a French territory is over 2,000 miles from the nearest human? Welcome to Clipperton Atoll, a French territory 1,280 kilometers southwest of Mexico, yet closer to nowhere. This atoll is only 3.4 square miles in area, and it has no fresh water, no trees, and no permanent residents. The closest people live over 3,300 miles away in French Polynesia, and yet, France still claims it. Despite being French territory, Clipperton has never had a government, just a caretaker living in a prefabricated house with no electricity or running water. Imagine living 2,000 miles from the nearest city, with no internet, no roads, and no one else for hundreds of miles. What's the most remote place your country owns? Comment below. And don't forget to like.